Hey everybody, Rob from Karma Comic Chameleon coming at you with a couple of ProRevenge stories. First, illegally fired for wanting safe working conditions. Let's jump right in. Backstory. I've worked in construction, paving, and mining for years. Was a fabricator, welder, mechanic, laborer, and equipment operator or combination of all five at various times. If you're familiar with MSHA, Mine Safety and Health Administration, then you know it's like OSHA, Occupational Safety and Health Administration on steroids. My dad has decades of experience in the coal, iron, copper, borax, and uranium mining industries and is an MSHA instructor as well as a pilot. My older brother worked in construction and mining as well and is now the safety compliance officer for a huge construction company. My uncle was a journeyman for almost 40 years. That's a lot of years to be a power line electrician and never suffer a serious injury. Needless to say, we have a rather large knowledge of what is safe and what is not safe. Safety regulations aren't BS. They are designed to keep your fingers attached and your heart beating. Literally thousands upon thousands of people have been horribly maimed and killed in order to build these regulations into what they are. I detest employers skirting safety for money. Story. I quit my last mining job because the employer was shady as hell, white-collar crime stuff, yes, they went out of business, and I was tired of the 200-plus mile commute each day on top of 12-plus hours of work in 130-plus degree heat. I began looking for a new job and found a fabrication gig building, maintaining, and repairing off-road vehicles. I rather enjoyed the work, even though it paid half of what the mining did. Fairly large facility with about 40 employees. I had decent coworkers and this was my first job with air conditioning. By the way, air conditioning is amazing. However, I couldn't really stand the shop manager. Shop manager was a know-it-all that didn't really know anything about welding or fabrication or safety. I'd say something like, I think we can do this repair job twice as fast if we do this instead. And his normal type of response would be, well, we pay you to work, not think or ask questions, etc. This guy was, and to my knowledge still is, an idiot, and I cannot figure out how he got his position. Literally every time you'd step into his office, he was watching stuff on YouTube or reading a magazine. Literally never lifted a finger in the shop in my 1.5 years around there. No idea what he actually managed. For about the first year there, each month I'd put in orders for stuff like welding gloves, respirator filters, welding hoods, welding wire, tools, raw materials, etc. You know, stuff they're supposed to supply. In my last few months there, store manager slacked even more, which I didn't think was possible, and started skimping on my orders. I'd order 5 pairs of decent gloves, he would get me 2 pairs of crappy gloves. I'd order name brand parts to repair machinery, he would get me cheap Chinese parts. Other requests were simply ignored, and I did end up spending my money to purchase PPE, personal protective equipment, which got old really quick. I'd tell him stuff along the lines of, hey, you can't let people block fire extinguishers like that, or you can't store those chemicals there, and he'd brush it off like I got no idea what the heck I'm talking about. This is where all the safety stuff I'd learned and been around for decades came in handy. He really started getting under my skin bad, so I wrote up a long list of around 20 to 25 OSHA violations I found over the course of a Monday and took about 60 photos which I planned to turn into him since it's his job to fix this stuff. That Friday, I went looking for him around lunchtime but couldn't find him, so I went to HR and basically vented to them about store manager and how, because of his ever-increasingly low standards, they are begging for an accident to happen. The work environment had become unsafe and it needed someone to straighten things up. I leave HR and go back to work. Around 30 minutes later, store manager walks up to me and is pissed. The convo went a little something like this. HR tells me you don't think this place is safe. Yeah man, something's gotta be done about some of this stuff. In fact, I got a list for you right here. Store manager takes list from my hand and rips it in half. Well, if it's so unsafe, why are you here? Because you know what? You can take the rest of the day off. Alright. In fact, don't bother coming back Monday or Tuesday or Wednesday. Are you firing me for bringing up safety complaints to you? I start getting a fat grin. Yes, in fact, say no more. See ya. I gathered up my tools and toolbox and left. I get home and file for unemployment. My unemployment claim gets rejected, surprise, surprise, and I appeal the decision, so the matter gets sent to arbitration a few weeks later, roughly 6 weeks after I was let go. I'm in the waiting room and reviewing all the paperwork relating to my claim, and the first page I see is the company response to my initial claim, which said I was fired for freaking out, being belligerent, and wouldn't say what the safety issues actually were. The next page is their response to my appeal, which said I was fired for being belligerent, and despite my piss-poor attitude, they were fixing the safety issues he brought up. I get called into the arbitration room, and I'm actually shocked that no one from my former company showed up. It was just me and the arbitrator. Very Judge Judy-like lady. She asked me straight and direct questions. I answered truthfully, and the whole thing was over in probably 6 minutes. She asked me if I had any questions, and I had just one. Why did they say on page 1 of my paperwork that I wouldn't tell them what the safety issues were, but page 2 says they are working towards fixing the issues I told them? The arbitrator went silent for a moment while reading each page and just says, "Huh, you're right." I'm told it'll be about 2 weeks before I have an answer. The next morning, maybe 14 hours after the arbitration, I receive a letter saying my benefits are approved. Plus, I get retroactive benefits from the date I was fired, and I'm receiving $100 more each week, net income, on unemployment than I was making full-time at the company. Laugh out loud. Fast forward about a year. I saved some of the unemployment money and used it to get my own little fabrication shop going. My dad calls me up one day letting me know that one of his customers that day is an OSHA inspector, and they got to talking about what had happened with my former company and me, and my dad even showed those pictures to the inspector guy. I didn't have a PC or printer at home, so I printed those 60 pics up at his work and left copies there the year before. He said the inspector was appalled by pictures and said he would check it out. Fast forward another year. My little fabrication company gets brought into the fold of the company my dad works at, so they could stop outsourcing mechanics and fabricators, and it'd be much cheaper to have a mechanic and welder in-house. On one of my days off, that same OSHA inspector fella came by and got to talking with my dad again about my former company. Apparently, he did a surprise visit to them not long after he had seen my dad the previous year, and handed out somewhere in the neighborhood of $30,000 in fines for OSHA violations, not fix-it tickets, full-on, pay this or we shut you down fines. Just gotta say, it felt good. That manager sounds like an uptight idiot, kinda like one I had back in the day working for a furniture leasing company in Canada. I had made a very small suggestion on something we could change or something we could do differently, and I was pulled into the back office, and he was shaking angry and told me, "I'm the manager, you do what I say." I actually walked out of that office saying, "Okay, apparently we're not allowed to think." On to our next story. Don't fire people who don't work for you. Let's jump right in. I had taken over running a small development team of 9 for a relatively big company. We were there for basic, quick little bits of software that wouldn't make sense to outsource, web apps that quiz employees on policy, fancy interactive projects to show off at conferences, or just an extra pretty PowerPoint, etc. The guy I took over from ran the team like we lived in the 1980s, so I brought us into the modern age, and surprise, surprise, within a few weeks, our team was finishing projects left, right, and center. Everything was going great. My coworkers could take smoke breaks and listen to music. Our internal clients were kept up to date with their projects, and my boss thought I was some kind of software prodigy as productivity had gone through the roof. Honestly, this was more indicative of how bad it was before rather than anything I did. Then comes Dick, short for Richard, of course. Now you know Dick, you probably have a Dick at your office. They've been there too long to be fired and delight in slapping people in the face with their seniority, regardless of whether or not they have anything to do with you. First, he sends us a project and marks it critical, as in, everyone stop what you're doing, now, this needs to be done yesterday. I politely send him a message and ask him if I can move it down to medium priority, as there was little to no time limit and we had other projects to deal with. He replies, "No, it needs to be done now. Get to it." I'd like to remind everyone that he is not my boss and has no authority over me or my team. So I CC my boss and the other department heads who we had projects for at the time. "Hi all, hope you're enjoying your day. Dick has asked me to work on this project for his department. However, he wants it to be done now, which would delay your projects. Would that be okay with everyone?" Turns out that's a no, and I downgrade his project. Now, Dick starts to live up to his namesake. A week or two later, I check our Trello, task management software, and notice Shia, fantastic programmer, great person, was falling a bit behind. I go to ask her what's up, and she looks like she's about to have a panic attack. I ask her what's wrong, and it turns out Dick had threatened to fire her if she didn't start working on his project immediately. I calm her down, let her take a break, tell her to start working on her regular projects, and to send Dick to me if he gets uppity. I then fire off an email to Dick and my boss reminding him that 1. Any threats of termination need to go through me and HR first. 2. Who works on what projects and when is determined by our schedule and myself. 3. If a project's deadline is moved up, I should be informed directly, not via my team. Turns out Dick is infamous for making threats like this, but because nobody took them seriously, I was the first to remind him he had no authority over other departments. I didn't find out until later, but apparently he had a meltdown at the boss about how incredibly disrespectful I was. He tried to file a formal complaint, but it was rejected because doing my job properly isn't actually a problem. Who knew? At this time, I accepted a better job and was going to put in my notice, but I wanted to wait until after our last project, let's call it the Ninja Report, was done, as it was a big deal for my team. This Ninja Report was part of a presentation by a company bigwig, boss's boss's boss, and was marked critical, so all of us were working hard to make sure we did a good job and got it in on time. Now finally we get to the revenge. I'm plugging in a switch under the desk when someone taps me hard on the shoulder. "Just a minute, mate." I stand up and stare directly into the red face of Dick, erect with fury and ready to spell his rage all over the office. "I'm not your mate. You need to learn your place in this company, blah blah blah." As this grown man is screaming at me in full view of my team, it suddenly dawns on me that I get severance, have another job lined up, and really have no reason to deal with this. "I want my project done now," he continues to yell. Now, I could have told him about the Ninja Report, I could have said a lot of things, but I just smiled, looked him in the eyes and said, "As long as I'm working here, the schedule isn't changing." Predictably, Dick responds, "Then you're fired." I grab my things and leave. As I'm leaving, one of my team comes up looking like a deer in the headlights and asks what they should do. Easy. First, I want everyone except you to stop working on the Ninja Report. Second, at the end of the day, send an email to the boss and the bigwig, let them know what happened, and explain that Ninja Report is going to be a week late. See you all for drinks Friday. I wake up bleary-eyed the next day to a call. "Hello? Hi. Look, I'm sorry about what Dick said. He doesn't actually have the authority to fire you, and the Ninja Report can't be late. We need to fix this." "Oh, I'm sorry. I've actually accepted another job. But don't worry, I figured this would happen. I asked one of my team to work on it privately. If they start working on the Ninja Report again, should be able to get it done on time. My boss tries to get me to come back, but I made it clear that wasn't going to happen. Recommended one of my team to take my job and thanked him for the opportunity. He's pretty cool about it, confirms I'll be getting severance, tells me I can use him as a reference. Friday drinks roll around and we have a lot to celebrate. The Ninja Report was done on time, and given everything that happened, it made my team look great. I got a new job, teammate got a promotion, and Bigwig was really eager to learn why his subordinate fired the lead of the team he picked himself and nearly tanked the project. I'm proud to report that the office is now 100% Dick-free. I guess he's lucky he had something else lined up, but I feel it's a little fishy because I don't think you'd get severance from a company if somebody fired you in error. This is Rob from Karma Comic Chameleon saying thanks for watching. Remember to subscribe, like, and share the video with your friends, or I'll eat all your cookies.